also when you walked in, before you leave, if you would sign into the sheet, make sure you pick up a schedule. Kim, I think, emailed this schedule out early last week. Some of you might have scratched your head and said, what is this for? So we're gonna talk about today what it's actually for. And then, I think that's it. Sign in, get a schedule. Yeah, okay. So how many of you in the room actually administered the iReady math diagnostic last year? So a couple of folks. Okay, good. So these folks probably have had more eyes on iReady than I have. But I want to give you kind of the background of it, and then we're going to get right into it. So last spring, Gwinnett County, as part of, we talk about the 4 E's. If you don't know what the 4 E's are, you need to start Googling tonight. So one of the E's that we always talk about now this year, we really want to make sure we're giving attention, is that component of equity. And so when we started talking about this last spring, and they started talking about what they were going to do, I'm not going to lie, part of me was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And then the other part of me was like, oh, dear Lord, So it's kind of one of those great things, but it has little edges to it. So just to give you a little bit of background information, all of our students that come to Couch, who in the past have demonstrated that there is a need, that there is a weakness in math and or reading, we have had the amazing Sarita Boozer, who has been giving these students screeners. And she can tell us where they're falling in terms of their performance. Now, that's just because we have the amazing Sarita Boozer and we have the amazing RTI team that we do. The downside of that, and we talk about equity, is we have a great team here at Couch Middle School. But I know that there are other schools within the district, other middle schools, definitely all the high schools, and some elementary schools that have not had screeners like this in place. So you have kids who theoretically could start falling through cracks. So the district decided in the spring, we're gonna start giving a universal screener to every single kid in Gwinnett County, K through 12. So they gave us the option, your school can either do iReady or they can do math. Since we had some experience with people doing iReady and we already have some experts in the building, we opted for iReady. So that's why we're doing, that's why we're using it, really, just because it's something somewhat familiar to some of us. So, Graham.
So we saw a list at one of our staff meetings of which schools are doing which. There are only 2 schools that are doing math. So iReady is really the better. It's
so
more
we're
comprehensive.
conforming for the
so
most
you're
part.
doing the stuff that's
Good
gonna,
to hear.
gonna
Good
be
to hear.
good for the long run, hopefully.
Good to hear. Now, I will tell you, in terms of the administration of iReady, it is a 50-50 kind of thing. So just to give you thought process on here, a lot of schools are having their math teachers give the math diagnostic like you guys did last year, and then they're having their language arts teachers give the reading diagnostic. So in talking with the leadership team, the concern I shared and that they were all in agreement with is, I don't want my math teachers losing up to 2.5 days of instruction. I don't want language arts teachers losing 2 to 2.5 days of instruction. There's a component of fairness to that. So that's why we're having homeroom teachers administer it, so that we can get it out of the way in the morning, and then you still can have all 4 classes during the day, okay? So you will notice on your schedule, there are 4 days that we are doing this. We are starting this Thursday and Friday with math, and then we roll Monday and Tuesday for reading. So there's 4 days that you're gonna feel this impact on your schedule, okay? Yes.
What if they don't finish the math in 2
We'll go
days?
over it. All right, so today's, what our focus is for today. We're gonna talk about the overall process. I think I've talked about that a little bit already. We're gonna look at what is iReady and then also actually administering it. So we're gonna go through pretty quickly. So as I mentioned already, the purpose of this is to identify which students need enrichment and or remediation. That can play out in your classroom. It's gonna play out huge for us in the RTI world. Which kids do we need to be providing some more support to, and how can we do that at the tier 1, but then also the tier 2 level? A couple of things I mentioned already. It is K through, I'm sorry, I thought it was 12. It's K through 10th grade. So even our high schools are like, whoa, we've never done anything like this. So at least it's a little bit of a level of comfort for us. I will tell you, it's gonna be administered 3 times this year. So we're gonna do this 3 times. So we'll do it beginning this week, we'll have, I think we're looking at the very early December, and then we have March is when this will be administered. You're only gonna be trained one time, this is it. So, there's no reason for us all to come back together again and talk about it unless there's some weird new things that change. So that's the plan, okay? All right, so a couple of things that you need to know about already. As I talked about already, we're looking at math and reading skills only. One of the biggest things that you need to be able, that you need to know so that you can appropriately communicate this to kids. It is an adaptive assessment. So it means that the questions change based on how the student is performing. So just a simple example, they get question number 1 right, they get question number 2 right, they get question number 3 right, question 4 is gonna go here. They get question number 1 right, but they get question 2 and 3 wrong, question number 4 is gonna go here. So it literally tracks their progress as they go through the test, giving them questions that are right where they should be, easy for kids, and some that are really, really hard. That's gonna be very important to make sure that we're letting kids know, okay? Some questions, easy peasy, and some of them really, really difficult. I'm sorry? No, am I going? Brandon, can you, do we have, are you
See if
good?
it's, yeah,
Are you
see if
sure?
it's
Okay.
compatible real quick. Is that
So,
right?
nope, that's not me.
I'll go with that.
Pop over in Steven's
Yeah.
office, just look on the floor, there's usually 1,000 of them lying around.
Which one is that?
So Chrissy, do the kids have the same number of questions? So like when they're changing, does that mean this kid may answer more questions or less questions, or how
It
does that
means
work?
that a student might take longer than another student.
Okay, but the number of questions should be.
The number of questions should be about the
Make sure
same,
it's a cherry.
okay?
I
But
will.
good question. Did it die?
You hit the okay button.
There you go.
Let you keep going.
Sorry, y'all. Oh, technology.
Tech support team, here we go.
See, and Graham, that's what I love about you.
Right.
You just put on a different hat.
Other
Except it's
side.
over here, so electrical work is not your thing.
My charger's different.
Okay.
You got the old school one?
Yeah.
All right. So, as I mentioned, because it's an adaptive, you're gonna have questions that are gonna be really, really hard, really, really easy, and some right where they should be, okay? One of the biggest, there's 2 huge things that come into play for this test. Number 1, we need to make sure that we are communicating to students and encouraging students to do their absolute best on this test. We also need to be mindful of the fact that they're middle schoolers, and some of them are gonna be highly engaged. Some of them, their eyes are gonna start rolling to the back of their head, and they're gonna start Christmas treeing that thing like crazy. So, I'm okay if you say to kids 2 things. Number 1, if you blow this test off, it might have to happen that you're coming out of PE for connections and going into some remedial help classes. Or option B, which is an option, if the math or reading teacher can clearly see and they've got a red flag next to a kid, we can make that kid retake that test. That's a big reality, okay? So those are 2 things you wanna make sure that you communicate to your students. The other component that we're gonna talk about is that active monitoring during this test by the homeroom teachers is critical. This test, I will tell you, because we're giving it the way we are, there is not a dashboard that's available to homeroom teachers to see how kids are doing. Do they have a kid that's just going ding, 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 or do they have a kid that's just kind of all over the place? A dashboard for math and reading teachers, if they were giving it, it would tell them that. But as a homeroom teacher, you don't have that dashboard. So that's why active monitoring is going to be huge for this assessment. Teachers are going to have to walk around, see how kids are doing. Is this kid over here clicking a lot? Is he or she going through it? And then you can go over and say, if you don't slow down and take your time, you will have to retake this test, okay? And we will literally have to make them retake it. So, as I mentioned already, our math screening is this Thursday and Friday. Reading screening is next Monday and Tuesday. You will notice on your schedule that this testing time is from 9:30 until 10:45. But you'll also notice that you're seeing all 4 of your classes that day as well. Now, follow me for just a moment, okay? So, I'm in Pete's homeroom, and I test all day on Thursday. I start my math test. On Friday, I'm absent. If I'm absent on Friday, and I go in on Monday, it will not let me take that reading test until I have done with math. Like, it will not let you. So the makeups are going to be critical. Now, the one thing that I hate about this test, just because I'm very logistical in my thinking, I like for somebody to say to me, this test is an hour and 30 minutes. This test is not timed. So some kids could take an hour and 30 minutes, some kids could take an hour and 10 minutes, some kids could take an hour and 45 minutes. So one of the things, and we're gonna revisit it again, because I think I put it at the back of it. If a kid is here Thursday and Friday and they take their math, but on Friday afternoon, math teachers, you go into your dashboard and you see that they're not finished, then what you're gonna wanna do on math on Friday in your class period is say, hey, you three, I saw that you didn't finish, I'm gonna pull you over here and let you get that finished. On the language arts day, the Monday and Tuesday, on Tuesday, you look at your dashboard, you realize that some kids have not finished, you're pulling them in and saying, hey babe, let's get this finished up today during class, okay? So if a kid is absent, it is going to impact which test they are taking on which day. So we're really gonna encourage kids to be here this week for Thursday and Friday, okay? All right, test things to just think about. So, this test has two components where kids are going to need their earphones. There is a hearing component at the very beginning of the test with the various videos and great little tools to help them learn how to navigate it. So they need their own headphones. There are also brain breaks in this testing that we're gonna talk about that have sound associated with them. So they need their own headphones. Again, this is something that we need to communicate. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to just give teachers here's 10 extra sets of headphones in case you have kids who don't come in with headphones. I have them, but I'm not just willingly giving those out to every single homeroom teacher. That's a lot of headphones. So on your days of testing, and hopefully there's just this one day that we have to do this, that window between 9:15 and 9:30, when your kids are putting up their breakfast and they're getting ready and they're getting their device out, because we know it's charged, they charged it the night before, and you recognize that these students do not have headphones, what I want you to do right then is send Raynell an email. Raynell, I need 8 headphones. Raynell, I need 3 headphones. She's literally gonna be just running to your classroom and dropping off the headphone counts that you need. If they are used, we do not want them back. These are those disposable kind. So tell those students, hey, those headphones I gave you, you better have them tomorrow, and you better have them next Monday and Tuesday as well. Okay? So we're not gonna keep resupplying them with headphones because they cannot keep up with them. Also, accommodations. Because this is a universal screener, there are no accommodations for this test. The only thing that's happening is, and this is just because of the way we are scheduled, we do have some small homerooms, like Heather has a small homeroom, Terry Harrison has a small homeroom. They're testing with those homeroom teachers. That's really just it. That's a scheduling thing. We don't have extended time for anybody because it's not a time test. We don't have read aloud, even though the read aloud component is part of the test itself. Because it's a universal screener and we want to see how kids perform, we need to take away all of those little sponges that help them so that we can get a really good raw idea of how these kids perform. As I mentioned, there is a variety of tools that they will have access to that will show them these tools, it will show them videos on how to use them. Again, it is not a timed test. So on the first day of testing, you'll see your window is 9:30 to 10:45. So around 10:40, you can say, hey guys, I want you to go ahead and finish on the question that you're on. As soon as you finish that question, submit that answer. And when we come in tomorrow, it's gonna pick up those kids right where they left off, okay? So they may take the whole time on Thursday, They may need only 40, 45 minutes the second day. Homeroom teachers, you might wanna have a little something that you can pull out for them to work on. If you've got some little word find or some little puzzle or something that's gonna keep them silent and engaged while their peers work, fantastic idea, okay? But as a reminder, if you have a kid that uses all the time on Thursday and all their time on Friday and still doesn't finish math on that Friday morning, they are going to
Do it during class.
get it with their math teacher and do it during class, okay? Yes.
That's it. Well, for
Oh,
me,
your hand, I thought your
no,
hand was up, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
It's rigged where they can't go home and do this, even though they have their student, right? It
Yes
is
and
rigged.
no. It is, they will all have access to it at the same time, but I have to go in at the end of the day and turn it off.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, so they changed it from last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember
Yeah.
that from last year.
yeah, we have to hide it from them. I don't turn it off, I hide it from them. Kind of weird, but yes.
Because last year, they only let them do it at school, so.
Yeah. All right, as I said already, there are the embedded components that they need to have the headphones for. And then again, this is a completely online test. Now, they do have access to scratch paper, especially for this math test. So every day of testing, when you come in that morning, I will have in your mailbox a pile of scratch paper for you to use for your students. This is, even though this is a screener and it's a test we're given, this is not like super secure, high, you're about to sign your life away. This is not like a milestones test, okay? So your students should not be leaving your classrooms with their scratch paper. They should be putting their first and last name at the top of the scratch paper. And at the end of the testing session at 10:40, as they're submitting your answers, you're going around and you're picking up their scratch paper. During your planning period on these testing days, I want you to go drop your scratch paper off with Raynell. She's gonna keep track of who brought their scratch paper in and who have I not gotten it from. You don't need to keep it, you just need to turn it over to her. Any unused scratch paper you have, you can keep that because you can roll it into your supply for the next day, okay? Now, the math, of course, is gonna be huge for scratch paper. The reading section, if you've got 30 kids in homeroom, I'm probably only gonna give you 10 to 15 pieces of scratch paper. They need to have it accessible if they want it. So on the reading days, you can say to them, I'm not gonna distribute scratch paper today, but if you need some, I have some, you just raise your hand and I will bring it to you. So we're not just gonna willy-nilly give it out, but we need for it to be accessible to them if they want it. Yes.
Calculators, they only use the calculator online, they don't have.
Correct. They can only use the embedded calculator,
Yeah.
they can't use anything else, correct. Any questions about the scratch paper? Okay, moving right along. Again, as I said, monitoring during this test is critical. Or if you don't, you're gonna have kids just willy-nilly going through this test and Christmas treeing it. So you need to be creative in how you do that. If you plan to spend the bulk of your time at the front of the room, maybe the kids face that wall so that you can see their screen. Or either if you're gonna have them face normally, then you may wanna spend your time at the back of the room. These will be days for you to get your steps in, okay? So wear comfy shoes, so that we can make sure that we are actively monitoring. Questions up to this point? Yes, ma'am.
Jeans days?
I'll think about it and get back to you. All right, any other questions? Yes.
I don't know if I missed it, but we always have a student or two that forgets their Chromebook. What do they,
So we're gonna try to have a couple of extra Chromebooks available for that. So if in your email to Raynell, you're saying, hey, I need 1 or 2 more Chromebooks, we'll have a few extra that we can dolly out. Chris and Steven did say today, they're actually gonna work on trying to get an extra Chromebook or an extra device in your classrooms, not just because of this, just for you to have all year long. So hopefully those will be in place for the bulk of you by Thursday.
So we put
Okay.
someone on the student computer, can
Yeah, you can put somebody on your student computer if you need to, because all they're doing is logging into the student portal. So it's not like a secure kind of thing, so you can use whatever device that you might have there in your room.
we got those desktops today.
Got those today.
Yeah, we got today.
Okay, fantastic, so
That's
that's your first go-to.
So Chrissy, classroom setup, is it as critical as PSAT, or as far as how kids are arranged, do we need to redo our desks?
I mean, if I were going to redo my desk, it would be so that I could easily see what's on their screen.
No, we gave it.
But I'm not telling you you have to and separate them and all that stuff. But, I mean, as someone who's got to monitor, I would do what's ever easier for me. Yes.
For students who do have accommodations that will not be receiving them for this universal screener, have their parents been notified? Because I'm thinking of the emails that I might get from some parents.
I created a letter that I sent to Devin over the weekend and told him it needed to go out in the parent letter. And in the parent letter, it was supposed to, okay, he and I will get together. I may just send out an email to all the students and parents just to let them know of some reminders.
Okay.
It's, if you've got an IEP student, a parent that's pretty intense, I mean, you can just always remind them, it's not one of those testing accommodations that we discussed last year, because there are none given. Kind of like PSAT and COGAT, when we gave COGAT to everybody. They're kind of a
I'm just trying to think
some.
about.
Yeah, you've got some atypical parents this year, yeah. Just so that you're aware of the process, so we have been told that every student that enrolls in our school has to be screened. So what our process is going to be here locally, if a student enrolls at Couch after our administration dates, and they've not had this screener, you know, maybe they came from Bay Creek and they've already had it, so their data will populate. But if they've not moved from a school that has done it, what we're going to do is we're gonna enroll them in Sarita Boozer's A Connections class. And then they are going to stay with her for their A Connections for probably about a week or so. And during that time, they're gonna do their math screener and they're gonna do their reading screener. Once they have finished, we'll release them to general population and they'll just go into a connections class, okay? Now, there is a window of which we do not administer them. So when we have our December administration date, I'm gonna go and count back 4 weeks because they do not take it 4 weeks before the second one. So there will be a window of kids who don't go to Sarita just because they enrolled in that time that we just need to let them take it in December, okay? All right, student perspective. Here we go, pay attention. How do your kids access it? So on the student portal page, you will notice at the top, there is a section called additional resources. Now, they first told us if they click on that, it should be an automatic pop-up. Then they said to us, no, they might have to like just start writing or start typing the word iReady, and then it will populate, okay? So that's how they're going to access it. They're not taking this in a secure browser. So that's why that monitoring piece is so important, because you don't want some little jackwagon to all of a sudden start going on a Google search trail if you're not paying attention, okay? So that's how they're actually going to get to the test itself. The very first time that they navigate to iReady, so next Thursday, they are going to be prompted that they're about to take a diagnostic. This is huge. This is one of those, do not click unless I see you click. They have to click on the math. If they click on reading on Thursday, well, they're taking reading for 2 days, because once they get in there, I can't get them out. And it will require them to finish it before it lets them start the math. So that is critical. Yes.
So is it just iReady, cause I'm just popped into one of the kids' things and it says iReady and it says iReady math.
Either one should be the same.
I think I can email and get some specifics on that, but I think they're just going into iReady.
I just wanted to.
I think the iReady math is for when they can start doing their student modules and they can go in and it's very specific to them, okay? But I will ask the testing team that and get some. All right, so the right-hand side of the screen is what our kids see. The left side is like elementary, so we're not gonna have the cute cartoons like they do, okay? So they're gonna click on the green button to start the diagnostic. Then what's gonna come up is a thing that says My Path. So this lets them know that they're about to start. So they're gonna click on their button, and then what it's going to do is they're gonna watch a short video that's made up by students that are their age. And they're gonna talk to them about, hey, make sure you take your time. This is a really important test. Some of your questions are easy, some are hard. Just do your best that you can. Then it's going to take them to a screen that shows them all the tools that they will have access to. It will require them to watch those videos to show them what tools they have available. They can't jump ahead, they can't skip ahead. So, it'll show them for each of those tests which tools that they have. So, we'll go back to this. All right, so then after they choose their grade level, again, they're gonna click on their math on the first page, their reading when they get finished with it, the math section, the next week. They're again, here's their My Path, what their reading diagnostic looks like. And then here's a snippet of the videos over here on the right of what their videos are gonna look like. They're gonna give the kids some tips. That's that read aloud component. That's why they need the headphones. It'll go through their tools again that they're gonna have access to. And then it will tell them how to navigate the page. How do they go from one page to another? How can they go back? How could they skip ahead? All of those things. So again, this is very self-directed. That's why they're watching the videos. And then it will get into the actual questions of the test, okay? Now, I will tell you what's really interesting about this test is that it gives kids brain breaks. And they're gonna do those brain breaks sometimes after every 4 questions, sometimes after every 2 questions. And the purpose of the brain break is literally to keep them engaged. So, here is an example of a brain break that will pop up. It's literally a game that they have to play to move forward. They have to participate in the break. It will not let them, oh, I don't wanna do this stupid thing, and move forward. It will not let them move forward until they've had their brain break. So, one thing to be mindful of, if you see a little alien be bopping around the page, it doesn't necessarily mean your kid has went off the test. It's very well that they're probably still in that platform, okay? So again, about every 2, sometimes 4 questions, they're gonna have these brain breaks that make them stop and relax and literally take a brain break. Good way just to keep them engaged.
So,
Yes.
last year, if they tried getting a bunch wrong, they would give them one of those brain breaks, and then, so you knew if a kid was constantly on a brain break, that they weren't doing a very good job, that they were just randomly
Struggling.
clicking on stuff.
Or they were truly struggling.
Yeah, so it was one of the 2, but they would, yeah, that's how it would happen last
So
year.
for example, somebody asked in the last question, they were like, well, what about my ESOL kids who don't speak English? You're not allowing any accommodations. And I said, well, it's gonna give us a very clear indicator of how the student is performing with the English language. So that could be theoretically a student who you see with a lot of brain breaks. They're probably picking up on this kid is really struggling with the content, okay? Once they get finished, over on the right-hand side, it will tell them that they have finished their diagnostic. And then once they have finished their diagnostic, it'll give them some reminders and other things like that about things to keep in mind, okay? Now, timing and test completion, as I mentioned to you on your schedules, we'll be testing from 9:30 to about 10:45 is our end time. Around 10:40, you need to get kids to a good stopping point. You're needing to collect that scratch paper. You're needing to make sure they submit their last question so that it picks up where they left off the next day. Anything like that. As I mentioned, for any student who doesn't finish the math section on the second day of math teachers need to be able to go into their diagnostic screen, see who is not finished, and pull those folks over to a small group on Friday. Same thing for language arts. If they noticed on Tuesday at the end of testing and reading that they are not done, those teachers need to plan to pull those kids over and just do a little small, hey, go ahead and get your tests finished type of thing, okay? If we have kids who are absent, like I said on Friday, and they're not with you to finish math, when they go in on Monday, they're not gonna be able to do that reading test until they finish that math test. So remember I said to you, hold on to that unused scratch paper? That's where that might come into play, okay?
That
Yes.
would be the same thing if it took a kid those Thursday, Friday, plus Friday in class, that means Monday, cause last year it was like, kids were taking days.
5
to
days.
do- Yes, that's what I was saying, it may even roll to Monday.
It very well could.
Oh,
It
just
very
warning
well
everybody.
could.
Okay, warning.
In the gifted meeting, we were told that kids shouldn't be taking any longer than an hour, hour 15.
They told us it's
If so-
about an hour and a half.
If so, that we needed to kind of tell them, you need to hurry up.
And you can give some verbal, verbal cues, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, your gifted kids are the ones who are probably going to take a longer amount of time. They wanna do awesome, they wanna be perfect. And so when they get a question that's asking them to kind of factor this quadratic equation, and they're like, what? As I said, do you remember, some of the questions are gonna be really, really hard. They're gonna be high school level. If they're rolling right along, they're probably gonna have a pre-cal question come up. And you know our gifted kids, they have to get a question right. So if you see, especially those kids that are like that, those overachievers, and they're still stuck on that same question, sometimes you need to go by and say, baby, it's okay if you don't know every single thing, as long as you've tried your best, but let's not get stuck on this question. So, thank you for sharing that, Kim. All right? Any questions about this? Okay. Any questions in general? All right, how to do that?
30 minutes, 44 seconds.
44 seconds too long.
I got a question.
44 seconds too long. Now, the last thing I will say really quick before I let you go. If you are a math and a language arts teacher, I'm gonna send you a separate email to show you how to go in and pull your diagnostic reports from your rosters once your students have finished, okay? So math and language arts teachers, I will send those to you. Question in the back, Mr. Williams.
I just want to introduce a new member of the team.